biggest thing though, and there's lots of people that will know that have had a diagnosis of cancer, is it doesn't just affect the person that gets the diagnosis. It can also be as difficult for the friends and family as well.
I'm trying my best to manage it as well as I can, but I'm not going to let it rule my life.
It's such a taboo subject, isn't it? Like, cancer is related to death. If you have cancer, you die. But I also thought that as well. When I got told you've got cancer, first thing I thought, who's going to look after my children?
There's so much support out there for people as well. If you encounter any issues, don't suffer in silence. There's so much support out there to help you come back. I came back to break the world record.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Taking Control of Cancer, the podcast from the North East London Cancer Alliance. I'm Steve Bland, and in this podcast we try and give you a bit of a how-to guide to help you overcome some of the myths, the fears, the barriers to cancer prevention, diagnosis, treatment and care. We want to provide both patients and healthcare professionals with tangible, real things they can do to help when it comes to cancer. Now, of course, we know that not all cancers are preventable, but there are things that we can all do that can make a positive difference to the health and well-being of our family, our friends and our colleagues. So my guest today is International Athletics Master, Joe Appiah. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. The sun is shining out there, so everything is good.
And it's a perfect day outside to get out and do some running, which is what I want to start on with you, because your athletics career. Before we get into the cancer stuff and your own cancer story, I said athletics master. You've been competing for a long time, Joe, haven't you? Just tell us about your career and what level you've competed at and what level you compete at now.
Right, my athletics career started by chance. Basically, I was a semi-professional footballer, and I combined that with my work. I didn't know anything about athletics at all because I was brought up in Ghana, in West Africa, and I came to the UK to join my mum, who was already here when I was nearly 15. So I didn't know about athletics. All I knew was football. So I played football when I came to the UK, and I went to work. And when I went to work, I played football for them. And then they said, "Oh, you're quite fast on the football pitch. We got sports day coming along. Do you fancy the relay with us?" And I did a 4x1 relay with them. By this time, I was already early 20s. And then the following year, I thought, "Oh, this was quite good." The following year, I thought, "Okay, I'll enter the individual event." And I entered 100 and then 200. And then I started to do some long jump. And then I started to win. So by this time, I was winning. And I was thinking, "Oh, okay." So then I decided to join my local athletics club, which is Kent Athletics Club, based in the Borough of Lewisham. And we going back here to 1995. And then when I joined them, they got me to do quite a lot of different events. And I was doing the sprints, but equally I could jump as well. So with a little bit of some more training and some more structured training program, I started to really enjoy the long jump. So the long jump was my first love, and then eventually I jumped over 7 meters when I was 33. I mean, because it's such a technical event that it takes you that long to get it, and because I didn't have the athletic background, it took me that long to actually master it. And then I also started to enjoy the hurdles, sprint hurdles. And again, it took me a while. When I was 33 again, I started
so
getting
much technique involved in that, isn't there?
Say again?
So much technique involved in the hurdles.
Exactly. And if you look at my stature, if you see any of my pictures, I'm quite short, quite slim, quite slight as for hurdler. So it took a lot of hard work, a lot of good stretches
Yeah.
to try and get over those hurdles, because the hurdles
Yeah.
comes to my belly button. It comes to my belly button. So normally, when you reach sort of like early 30s, most athletes will sort of like, oh, I can't compete that well with these senior athletes, or if I can, now I'm not at the same level or the same standard. They tend to drop off,
Yeah.
and then we lose them from the sport, which has been a shame in previous years. So what they did was, the Masters used to be 40 for men and then 35 for women. So they changed the age to bring the men in level with the women. So it became 35. So as I was sort of about to think whether should I continue or shouldn't I continue.
Yeah.
By this time, I've retired from semi-professional football at 29, and then concentrated a bit more on athletics. And then I started to just get better as I was in my 30s. And again, I got a jump over 7 meters when I was 36 in long jump. So it was I was thinking, oh wow, I found a new life, a new leaf in my 30s, and then I discovered the Masters, and it took off.
So you were just into that. You're in that sort of golden age where you just qualify for the. It's like when you see veterans football leagues,
That's it. Yeah.
and you get some lads running around who are like 55 and they're still kind of playing and having a great time, but then some lads in the same league are a day over 35 and they're still really fit and they just run rings around them, and it's that kind of thing that you just ticked over into that veteran masters age category.
Yeah.
And what sort of level of competition are we talking? International, world level?
Well, the Masters, yes, I do. I compete against people in Europe. So there's normally two championships a year. You have the European Championship, and then you have the World Championship. So if you've got a European Championship indoors, in the winter, you have the World Championship outdoors. That's how it works. So yeah, I do Masters International, and I've gone through all the age groups,
Yeah.
and now it's a 5-year age group
Right.
gap. So you compete with people within 5 years of your age.
Yeah.
So, for example, if your age 35, they'll say you are M35,
Yeah.
and then to 39, and
Yeah.
then you got 40 to 44, so you'll be M40.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you.
So I am currently M50. In the category of 50 to 54. My current age is 53, so I'm in the middle of the age group.
And I think, well, I can say it. Hopefully you can explain a bit more, but you don't just compete, do you? You win and you set records and you win medals.
Yes, it didn't start off like that. When I joined the Masters, I was getting beaten, and then I had to think about, why I was getting beaten, and what I needed to do to try and improve. So it didn't start off winning all the time. My first competition, I came third and then came second, but I wanted to win.
Yeah.
I had that mindset that I wanted to win. So I went away and tried to improve, try to work on my weak points, and also and trying to enhance on my strongest points. My strongest points, maintain that. But is there anything else that I can do to improve so that I can beat these people that beat me? And then I started to win my first world Masters champion. I won. The first one was in 2009, the World Championship. I won the hurdles. Before that, I was not winning. And then since then, I have been winning the Europeans and the World Masters, indoor and outdoor. I think I started the Masters since 2006, and for European, in the last 15 years, I've only been beaten once. I've
Who
been
beat
beaten
you?
for 15 years. I think I was last beaten in a long time ago. I think it was yes, I think it was a European person beat me in 2009
Wow.
for the world championships. I think I've been beaten only I've beaten twice since
Wow.
then.
Wow, that's some record, Joe. That's some record. And I think it's interesting to talk about the athletics first, because it's a connection that you made in athletics that led you into led us down into the cancer story, isn't it? Because it was someone who you trained with, I think, was it that?
Yeah,
Well, I'll let
someone
you
that
tell
I
the
know.
story.
Yeah, someone that I know within the sport. That we've been rivals for a while, but we became really good friends, and he basically saved my life. He 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 called me one day out of the blue from nowhere, yeah, he gave me a shock by telling me about his diagnosis, because he's around the same age as me, and I couldn't believe it. He called me and said, "Oh, Joe, I've got prostate cancer." So, what do you mean you got cancer? Yeah, I've got prostate cancer, and I've got an operation in a couple of weeks. You should go and get checked. I was stunned. I didn't ask many questions.
Yeah.
Firstly, I didn't know much about prostate cancer or prostate issues, and but it later transpired that he had symptoms and I ignored it. Also, he had a family history. His father had issues, so really he would have been one of those in the high risk category.
Yeah.
But for me, it became a shock, really, and that he had it, but then he
So you had
encouraged.
no symptoms or no, family history or anything like that would suggest, other than, a stat that we should mention here. 1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer, but for black men, it's 1 in 4, isn't it? And I think that, we can't really say that stat enough. I don't think it's quite something. But we were talking before we hit record a little earlier, and that was something that you weren't aware of before your own diagnosis.
No, I wasn't aware of it at all. I mean, when he spoke to me about it, I remember attending something well-being workshop at work a number of years ago that talked about prostate. But at the time, I was in my at least I think early or mid 40s, so I didn't really take note of it. But those kind of headlines didn't hit me then, and therefore, even if they did, because I knew I was not in the high risk category at the time, or they didn't explain in a way that it was more prominent in black men.
Yeah.
So when he told me, I just had to do more research. I did more research, and I knew that I had no symptoms. I mean, if I had any symptoms, I didn't realize it. For example, if I was going to the toilet more in the night, I thought, because in sport we drink a lot of fluids, so
Yeah.
I would have put it to that, or because I'm getting old. But I can't recognize any other symptoms that I would have had, and I didn't necessarily have any family history at the time that I was aware of. So he said, "Look, there's this test called PSA blood test, which is prostate specific antigen test. Just a simple blood test. Just go and ask your GP for one." So I went along, and when I asked my GP to give me a blood test, he called me in and said to me, what do you want it for? You're fit, you're healthy, you're young. Why do you need this?
What age were you at this point?
At this point, I was 50.
Right.
I was 50. He says, I said, well, the first thing is, like I said, I've already done my research. I'm entitled to it. So when you reach 50, you're entitled to a PSA test through your GP if you ask for one. But for black men, we've now changed the guidelines. It's 45 because our risk is double. So I went and I said, I'm entitled to it. I want it. And I think it may be something that a lot of men need to take that ownership and grasp it and insist. So my GP said to me, right, okay. Eventually, he said, all right, let me do an exam on you. So he did a physical exam on me, and there was nothing obvious. He couldn't see anything. He said, all right, okay, here's the form. Go and get a blood test done. Within a week, I got a call back, and he said to me, oh, your PSA level is a bit high. But again, there could be other factors that influence the PSA level, like protein levels. And also because obviously I do sport, I thought maybe because of my activities have influences. So I didn't really think much about it. He said it was 17, my PSA level was 17. Okay. Oh, well, I'll have to refer you because we don't know whether it's other factors have influenced it or not. The fact that you do exercises and that may have influenced it, may have allowed your PSA to go up. I don't know. So he referred me to urologist. And when I got to the urologist, again, I wasn't thinking anything of it. They did a physical exam. Again, they couldn't see anything. Nothing was conclusive. And they sent me for an MRI scan. Again, that wasn't conclusive. So they said, well, we have to do a biopsy just to be sure. So at this point, I still didn't think there was anything at all. And then I got the news. I remember this date, the 31st of July. Luckily, my wife was off that day, and we went together. And I'm so glad that I did take her with me. They said, oh, the biopsy. Yeah, we took around 18 samples. Majority of that showed that you got tumors, you got cancer in your prostate. So I just sitting there, just still not registering.
Yeah.
He just explained it again, and I looked at my wife, and she looked at me, and I just said, right, okay, can you explain that again? And he just basically saw on my face that it didn't really register that I've got cancer. So he said, look, you know what I'm saying to you? I say you got cancer. And then that's when it just hit us that from nowhere, I've now got cancer from someone that's so healthy, doing all the things to try and minimize any illnesses. And I've got cancer from nowhere. And and that was the day that I was told.
You touched on it a little while ago. Your knowledge before this point of cancer, of prostate cancer, but just talk to me about that. You know, when the doctor said you've got cancer, you've got prostate cancer, did you even know what that meant? You know, what did that entail? What did the treatment, look like? Did you know anything about it?
No, I didn't. I did my research before about PSA test and getting prostate examined and that, but I didn't really go deep into the various problems that you could have with your prostate properly, and especially prostate cancer, because I didn't think I was at that stage.
Yeah.
And then when he explained it to me, it just dawned upon me that, wow, from nothing, all of a sudden I've got cancer. And it's just like, because the biggest issue was for my wife, because she's gone through it with her mum, had cancer a number of years before that, and she passed away from lung cancer. Not only that, her father died 4 days later. So we've had some really, really challenging times, and she has had really big challenging times. So it was just. I mean, it wasn't me feeling sad. I was feeling sad for them, for her, and the kids. Really, I think I've just got that I'm that kind of person that I think, okay, I'll be okay, or I'll deal with this. But it was them. It was them that I was thinking more of.
Is that the mentality that kind of kicked in? Is that it's the kind of, thinking about the hurdles. If you knock over a hurdle, you think about the next hurdle, getting back on track and, getting your race back online again.
Yeah.
Was that the kind of mentality you went into it with?
Yeah, because how do I navigate a problem? And I think one of my campaign videos that I've done with Prostate Cancer UK, it was like, okay, I've got a problem. How do I solve it?
Yeah.
And then I went into that athletic mode in that, okay, what do I need to do to help myself?
Yeah.
Yeah. So after the doctor told us and gave us the options, he says, look, in order for us to give you the proper options or treatment options, we need to see whether the cancer has moved from your prostate or not. So they did a PET scan, and lucky for me, the cancer was in my prostate. It's been caught early, and it was what we call localized in the prostate. So if it starts to move outside the prostate, then that's where you got problems. Moves outside into the other organs. That's where it's much more bigger problem. So the best treatment option for me was to have my prostate removed. And if you think about it, this was 2021. We're still in COVID. So I was appointed a surgeon, and from 31st of July, his next, I was waiting. It was expected that my operation would be about October, November, which for me, I've got something growing inside of me that I don't like.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't really want to wait that long because I don't know what it's doing. So I wanted it out. And I didn't really want to wait till October, November, because although they do say that prostate cancer is a slow moving cancer, it's not always slow. Some of it can be fast moving, depending on the person, on the body, or where the cancer is. So I started to see whether there was another surgeon that could be available or any cancellations. So I was ringing every week. And eventually I got another surgeon who became available in September. So 29th of September, I had my operation. Now, when I had my operation, I said my PSA level was 17. My PSA have now moved to 22. So which means the cancer was potentially moving in my body, and it was got to the outer layers of the prostate. So any further delay into October, November, who knows? And so for me, I'm glad I did that, and I was lucky.
So you had the surgery, and then, was that it in terms of treatment?
Yes, for me, I was lucky because it was localized, and I had a surgery. It was very successful, and that was it. I didn't need any more treatment, because I do know that some people go on to do further treatment, with the radiotherapy or even hormone tablets. It depends on what their treatment option is. They may need other things as well. But yeah, that was it for me.
Were you thinking at all about, would I compete again, or was the athletics completely out of your mind? Because I imagine someone who is focused at this point in their life, 20 odd years to athletics. You know, were you thinking about that as well as the bigger picture, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is I was thinking, right, my family,
Yeah.
because at the time my youngest daughter was at university in Birmingham, and I needed that. Okay, it's not something I can tell her on the phone, so we had to all drive there to inform her about. I mean, and it was the toughest time for me was telling the kids, and then once we've done that and we all sort of like dealt with it together, and then I had my operation. The next step was, okay, I need support. Now, in that support network, obviously you've got your family, you've got the medical teams, and then the next stage is, okay, how do I support myself? Okay, um, I may need my coaches, I may need physicians, I may need massage therapists, right? I didn't think that I'll be able to come back to competition at the level that I did. But what I decided to do is I'll try, because at the time I don't think I saw anybody that's had such operation and then come back. Not that I was aware of. So I decided, right, okay, let's speak to all of these people and see what we can do, and then plan it step by step. I mean, I was just so vulnerable at the time. I mean, after the operation, I had 6 insertions in my stomach. I had a robotic surgery and had 6
Robotic
insertions.
surgery, sorry to interrupt, is
Yeah,
extraordinary, isn't it? We another podcast that I presented, a BBC podcast. We were lucky enough to go into the operating theatre at the Royal Marsden Hospital and be next to and talk to the guy who was doing the surgery using the Da Vinci machine while he was actually doing the surgery. And it was just the most extraordinary thing to see this chap being operated on, lying on the table next to us with all the probes going into him, doing all these different things. And then the guy that we're talking to is talking to us as if he's, out for a walk with his dog.
yeah,
And yet
yeah,
he's doing this incredible operation.
yeah,
I was blown away by it, and it was just a really amazing demonstration of how, go back 20 years, your diagnosis would have had a much different, not
journey.
outcome, but
Yeah,
the process would have been so much different, wouldn't it? And I think we've come on such a long way, not just in prostate cancer, across the board with cancers, with treatments, with surgical techniques, chemotherapies, radiotherapies, immunotherapies. And it was just a really great example and demonstration of, the amazing things that are going on, and how, if we can catch these cancers early, like you did with yours, they can be cured, they can be treated,
yeah, yeah,
far better than they were 50, even 5 or 10 years ago.
yeah. I mean, robotic surgeries, I think UK, we lead on this. And it's great to have that as an option for us. And like you said, the message is make sure we can catch it early. Is for men, and even for me, for women, and 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 anybody else that you know may have some issues. Is basically just make sure you go and get checked. And if you for asthma, for prostate, you're entitled to it. You're entitled to it. So go and get checked, because the GP is not going to invite you automatically. We don't have any national screening. So this cancer is treatable if it's caught early. And there's so many options available. And there's a lot of support out there as well, for any of the side effects afterwards. I mean, so I was about to say I was so vulnerable that I had to lie on my back after that operation for 2 weeks, and I needed my the support in my family. And then, of course, again, when I started to get a little bit fitter, get slightly stronger, this is where I needed the wider support group in my coaches, my physicians, and my massage therapists, my advisors, and it didn't start. It started in my room because as soon as I could touch my toes, I was doing it.
Yeah.
I could as soon as I could do, a little bit of stretches, I was doing it.
Yeah.
And slowly I started to build. I'll say about 6 weeks I was jogging. Even on the first day
6
of
weeks
my
after your operation, you were jogging.
yeah, even
Right.
the first when I woke up the next day, the nurse came to me and said, "Oh, let's go for a walk." Went down the stairs and came back up. She said, "Oh, you can actually go today." I said, "Oh, I like this room. Maybe I shouldn't have. This is a nice room. What do you want to go tonight? Oh, okay. Maybe I shouldn't have proved that I could actually do walking up the stairs, too well." So as soon as I was able to, I was doing what I can, but I was always mindful of, not messing up the operation, the stitches, the wounds. So I was basically just testing what my body is capable of doing. The other important message is that if you're generally fit and healthy, you can cope with such operations very well, and your recovery is much quicker.
Same thing I think applies to, a lot of treatments like your chemotherapies and things like that. There's a lot of great prehab schemes, to get people fit, for their treatment. And I think we're becoming a lot more aware of the need to, do things like these prehab schemes to make sure that people are in as best shape as possible to cope with the rigors of whatever the treatment brings.
Yeah.
I wonder though, for you, as as someone who actually competes at a really high level, did that kind of, competition, I'm gonna get back, the drive that, you have and you've had for such a long time to compete, did that drive, do you think, really kick in when it came to getting yourself back on track?
This is where you need that kind of drive, and
Yeah.
you need the skills that you have gained previously to help you. So I dug really deep into that, into that drive, that determination, that organizational skills, communication, speaking to the people around you, that can support you, say, well, okay, the physios, what can I do? What sort of things can I do, to strengthen this area, to strengthen that area, So this is where I really dug deep into what I have learned to try and help me. And slowly I started to build. For example, normally if I'm doing a training session, building up my core strength, I'll do bounding over hurdles. I knew I couldn't do that because my core has been really, really weakened. So what I did was I was able to jump over onto a flat surface, but without bounding over a number of hurdles. But that was okay when I jump and I hold it. So I just really try to just tweak my training to suit my body because my body has changed. My body has changed. It's similar to when we get old, our body changes. So we just can't do what we used to do before when we were in our 20s. So we have to change our training program to suit our body. And I also realized that even my running style changed. I was going like this. My coach noticed that when I was able to run, I was going like that. So again, I have to do that for a little while until I strengthen my core again.
So you got back on track, you got back competing, and you've turned your hand to a lot of campaigning now, haven't you, to really raise awareness, not just about prostate cancer, but about particularly that 1 in 4 black men stat, that we talked about earlier. What have you been doing to raise awareness in well, I was going to say, in your communities, but I guess awareness with everybody, isn't it? Isn't just. I've seen you do all kinds of work with Prostate Cancer UK. That's not just focused on your community around you. That's much wider.
Yeah, I mean, because once I came back, I wanted to show to people that, I wanted to try and inspire people that don't be afraid of this. You can overcome it. And it's not just about prostate cancer, it's about all other cancers or health issues that you can't overcome it. So once I did that, I thought, okay, I knew in our community especially, there's a number of things. There's a bit of the subject's a bit of a taboo, because people just say it's down there. They don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And then you've got the fear factor, of not. As men, we are seen as the breadwinner. So therefore, we don't want to. If we become vulnerable, we don't want to, put fear into our family. And then, of course, the machoism on top of it amongst our peers. So it's a number of things that probably stops us having those conversations. So I thought, okay, how can I use my platform? The fact that I've come back, and the fact that also I know that my community is suffering, and a lot of men are suffering, because the stats are quite huge. If you compare the stats to breast cancer, it's similar. Breast cancer affects 55,000 women. Prostate cancer is exactly the same.
Right.
If you look at breast cancer deaths, it's 11,599. Prostate cancer is 12,000.
Wow.
So if you look at those stats, I'm thinking, why don't I knew about this? Why isn't it everywhere like breast cancer is? Well, I didn't see nothing on TV.
Yeah.
Too much about it. I didn't see posters, which I see for breast cancer. I see people talking about breast cancer all the time. I see a lot of fundraising about breast cancer on a regular basis, or other cancers. I didn't see that, and certainly in the local communities, certainly Black communities, hardly.
Is there a wider issue around how cancer is discussed or not discussed in some of those communities? And I think it's something that a lot of work is going on to break some generational issues around the taboos of cancer.
Yeah. There's a lot of work going on. Certainly, I've been working with Prostate Cancer UK on those. I help them. I sit on one of the Black advisory group to try and change a lot of the messaging, to try and go into those communities, to try and raise more awareness. How can we connect with the people already working in the communities and help them raise more awareness? How can we bring a wider education within those communities, because their risk is doubled, but equally other communities as well that are doing a lot of work. How can we help them to raise the general awareness about this cancer? So yeah, a lot of work is going on in the background to do that, but also I've joined PC UK to some of the campaigns when I appeared on BBC Red Sofa. I've had 2 dates with Naga, so just make sure the wife doesn't know about it. So that was one of the reasons that I did that, is to try and raise a much more wider awareness of this of prostate cancer, and making sure that men go and get checked is appearing on BBC, because at the time I think there was 14,000 men that have not come forward because of the COVID. So I helped with that campaign, and at that time they have set up something called a 30-second risk checker, which is on Prostate Cancer UK website. Any man can go on there, or anybody can go on there really, and just answer a couple of questions, and you can print it off if it tells you that your risk is higher, and take it to your GP and to go and have a conversation with your GP.
And I read about a guy who, when I was Googling it before we chatted, there was a piece in the Liverpool Echo about
Yes.
a chap called Ted who
Yes.
saw you on BBC Breakfast, did that 30-second test, went to his GP with the results, and he had prostate cancer. So it's those kind of things. It does work talking, doesn't it?
Yeah, it did work talking, and Ted is a typical example. But there was many more as well, which obviously have not been advertised. But there was many more who said yes, we took those advice and went to the GP, and they also took the advice and started talking to their friends, people around them. But it's not just about men. Women, it's also important for women to be aware, because they'll be the ones that probably notice something wrong with us, or we going to the toilet a lot, or getting up in the nights, women and our partners. So they could be the ones that will be forcing us or encouraging us to go and see the GP, because some men, we do say that, oh, I've never been to the GP, we don't want to bother them. Yeah. Or if they go to the GP, the GP say, oh, you're fit, you're healthy, oh, you don't need it. They'll walk away.
Yeah.
They'll walk away because they don't want to do it in the first place. So it's important for the people around us to also be aware. And also, if we encounter problems, how are they going to support us if they're not aware?
Yeah. That's the key thing, isn't it? I think that's, whatever cancer type we're talking, whether you're black, white, you're tall, short, you're male, you're female, whatever, cancer is so indiscriminate, isn't it? And I think it's breaking down those taboos of a cancer being attached to a certain kind of person.
That's it.
Oh, I can't be, I can't have breast cancer, I'm too young. I can't have bowel cancer because I'm female. All these different taboos that we have to break down, because they just, we see time and time again that, so many people don't fit the idea of the person that we think should have a certain kind of cancer. And I think it's so important to break down these taboos in the way that, the way that you're doing for young black men. I can imagine, watch you, look at what you achieve, watch you on TV, and are so inspired by you, nothing to do with your cancer. And then they hear the cancer messaging as well. And I'm sure it's having a massive impact. Just to finish, what would your kind of big message be to someone? I don't know if they've even, perhaps not had any symptoms, if they're just, just worried, if they, even if they're not worried, even if, they're 50 years old maybe, and they're not even worried, but, what would your message be?
Well, my message to men is we really need to take ownership like women have. Women, lucky enough, they got screening. We don't. So we need to take the ownership for our own well-being and health. And also for some women, when I did one presentation, one lady came to me and said, oh, yes, you're right. I've got my screening letter. I've ignored it for weeks because I don't like it. But what you just said about the importance of being caught early, I'm gonna book my appointment and get it done. So it doesn't just apply to men; it applies to everybody. Don't put it off. We are entitled to it. Don't put it off. And
wonderful, Joe.
Early diagnosis is crucial.
That's perfect way to wrap it up, because I think that's the key message of this podcast. It's called Taking Control of Cancer, and there are so many things that we can't control, but there are things we can control, and it's how we choose to how we choose to understand our bodies, how we choose to respond to symptoms, all these kind of things that we can control. So that's really important messaging. Joe, thank you so much. That's been a really great chat. Thank you.
But equally, there is so much support out there for people as well. If you encounter any issues, don't suffer in silence. There's so much support out there to help you come back. I came back to break the world record in my age group. So it is possible. just need to take the ownership and believe it can be done.
Wow, you come back from cancer and break a world record. That'll just about do it, won't it? That's how you come back.
Yeah. I was so proud of it, and it makes my presentations and talks even more so that, look, you've gone through adversity, but there's also a silver lining at the end of it.
Wonderful. Joe, thank you so much. It's been great.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thanks to everybody for listening, and I hope you take something out of it.